모습부터 다름 짠하고 나타나면 카펫부터 가름 블랙했다 핑크했다 내 맘대로 바꿈 네 질투가 문제야 Maybe I'm the problem
Come on, sack, but on bitch, all up in it, make it rain like. Yeah, with some bitches you can manage. 저희 어려운 걸 해내줘. 우린 예쁘지 않아 savage, with some 예쁘지 않아 savage. You better run, run, run. You better run, run, run. All my diamonds stay yellow, oh bright, bright. Get 'em blind, can't find me, I'm out of sight. If you mad, stay mad, we not alike. S-A-V-A-P, keep it pretty, pretty savage. Pretty girl, 웃어주지마, 마냥 약하진 않아, and I wish you would. 비바람이 불수록 더 높이 날아. I got nothing left to say to you. 원하면 보여줄게 attitude. 굳이 말 안 해도 다 알잖아. You know. Savage. 봐도 해봤잖아. Savage. So pretty, 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 pretty savage. 봐도 해봤잖아. Savage. So pretty, 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 pretty. 지금 너도 같은 기분일까? 이상해 너랑 둘이 오랜만에 걷고 있는 이 밤. 좀 어색해도 난 여전히 너의 것이니까. Yeah, yeah. 미안해 내가 너무 매정했지. 진짜 겁도 없이 I don't know 아마도 그때 넌 그날 달래줄 거라 믿고 버틴 거야. 너 하나 없어지고 모든 게 무너져서 멍한 표정으로 아마 집을 앉아졌어 나. 점점 발걸음이 무거워 못 걷겠어. 이대로 널 보낼 순 없는 baby 안 떨어져. I know 우린 사랑해서 we don't talk together. 여전히는 너인 걸. Why don't you 인정하기 싫은 걸. Why don't you 보낼 수가 없는 걸.
우리 너무 사랑했어 아니 내가 사랑했어 나는 너무 착각했어 현실은 시간이 다가오고 있어 너를 보내야 해난 좌회전 Go straight 4분 전 아 진짜 돌아버리겠어 이별은 너무 아프지만 너를 놓아버리겠어 아니 너를 놓기 싫어 치료하면 되지 아픈 것을 놔버리겠어 우리 자주 갔던 카페 여길 돌면 1분 안에 너 이제 우회전 좌회전 도착
I know 우린 사랑해서 we don't talk together. 여전히는 너인 걸. Why don't you 인정하기 싫은 걸. Why don't you 보낼 수가 없는 걸. 집에 도착 잘 지내 하며 싶은 생각에 들어간 우리 창에 나는 말을 거는데 보내지는 않을래 느린 한마디보다 조용함이 더 좋아 기다리고 있지만 매일 이런 건 아냐 난 재미없어 게임 같은 건 다 필요 없어 아무리 좋아도 널 더 말로만은 지겨운 걸 먼저 와서 보여줘 먼저 와서 보여줘 Cause I'm not gonna be the one to get hurt Hey, I'm not gonna be the one to get hurt Hey, I'm not gonna be the one to get hurt
All right, let's do this, baby. Alright, yo, what's good, gamers? What's good? My name is Dr. Ryan Charles Psych Sensei, and welcome to the stream, baby. My foot is kind of messed up, so I'm trying to elevate it to be better so it doesn't get so swollen. See, this is the thing. Don't start running. You're gonna hurt yourself. Stay seated where it's safe. Nah. Just joking. Make sure you're fit. And if you want to stay mentally fit, please visit my website, psychsensei.com. There, you can get all the resources. And if you want to work or discover your win condition, fill out a free consultation form, and you and I can sit down together, figure out what's going on, where you want to go, and how to get there. And the best part about that consultation is that it's totally free, baby. So go to my website, psychsensei.com, fill out that consultation form, and let's hang out. If you want other stuff, like what I'm thinking, zany thoughts, fun stuff, please go follow me on Twitter or X. And if you want some daily drops of videos and things, please follow me on the TikToks. There you'll get all the drops every single day. You'll get good stuff, or stuff I think is good. But welcome to Gaming and this is a pure research nerd out session where you and I can sit down and read some basic research, things that I have picked out to talk about or read. And basically what I'm going to be doing is just reading this article out loud, or sections of this article, and go follow the bouncing ball wherever my ADHD brain thinks is interesting, and pick out some nuggies. And hopefully you can use these nuggies in your games or your life or whatever to help yourself. Dobby, I'm so sorry, buddy. Like, if I bring you up here, like, it's not going to be comfortable for Papas, okay? So you're going to have to stay down there. Is that okay? I know you want to be on stream, but Papas's foot is fucked up. And alright, Dobby, there you go. And if you have questions or you're wondering about things, type it in the chat. Come say hi. Don't be a stranger. I'd rather talk about what you want to talk about than read this thing. Alright, let's get to it. That's not what I wanted. Nande? Perfecto. Alright, here we are, baby. And let me know if the music is too loud. Alright. Little bit smaller. Okay. Alright. Factors that drain the psychological battery. Psychological endurance depends upon sustaining goal-directed behavior throughout the psychological battery. However, there are influences to consider beyond the control of the individual. Psychological and physiological factors related to the interpersonal and environmental stressors are also contributors. Increased demands placed upon an individual will change how well the desire to preserve can be sustained. Thus, it is important to fully understand one's context. So, basically, they're talking about, or they're saying that there's other environmental factors or things that drain the battery, not just thinking. So understand the context and the factors that are draining your battery. This aspect is especially true within a group of dynamic. I agree. Other people are stressful and definitely drain the cognitive battery. That's why, dude, like, every esport is a team sport, and more than half of the game isn't not necessarily how you can do, more necessarily like how well can you get along with other people and how well can you act as a team. I think that's a huge part of esports, is being a team player and knowing how to function with other people and get coached and things like that. And the match of the team, the match of the coach. Bro, I told you it was going to be hard. But I'll try to hold you with one arm, okay, Bubby? This aspect is especially true within a group dynamic. As such, this section will explore psychological and physiological factors that might exacerbate challenges to sustaining psychological endurance. Notably, the below examples will focus on psychological stressors or physiological stressors relative, but they should not be conceived as wholly independent. Stress in one dimension can affect actions and stressors as reflected in another dimension. For example, psychological stress can significantly impact physiological through food choice, disrupted sleep, or overconsumption behaviors. Facts. Because I mean, like, if you're stressed, you're gonna try to be less stressed. So you're gonna do things like eat comfort foods. Maybe you're gonna stay up or not sleep because you're stressed out and thinking about it, or you're talking to people bitching about it, you know, or you're gonna go drink beers or something to make you feel better. So you cannot separate the psychological stress and physical stress and vice versa. Unlucky, you are locked in mentally and physically to your physical spaceship, which is your body. Spaceship or data collector, depending on how you want to see it. You seems similar correlations in, well, by the way, what's up? Rebiv. That's a sick name. You'd see similar correlations in physical settings such as LAN with loud noises and lights to mechanical ability. Absolutely. You should check out, I forget what college just like opened up their esports facility. Oh, no, it wasn't a college. It was Complexity, I believe. They built this new stadium or like practice arena, and it mimics flashing lights and noises and things like that simulate a crowded stadium, so they can acclimate their athletes to all these kinds of things. Absolutely. So people don't think about those kinds of things, and on top of that, the pressure that you feel during the game that's a little heightened, you know, because it's actual competition. So absolutely, that's a great point. Repiv. Mental fatigue can directly impact. Oh, by the way, welcome to the stream, baby. Hope you're doing well. Mental fatigue can directly impact physical performance, even when the stressor has been primarily cognitive. Absolutely. Oh, right. With all the flashing lights, was a Super 6 simulator. I'm so curious if they are assessing results utilizing mechanical metrics, not just results. Yeah, I mean, let's think about that for a second. I think a really cool way to measure that thing would be like through heart rate and like, I don't know, I guess heart rate. I don't know how much else they could do. I guess they could look at cognitive fatigue by like eye tracking and stuff like that. Would be sick. I also agree with you that not just the results of like they won, so it must be good. I think like results-based analysis isn't always great. You know what I mean? But absolutely, that facility is sick. Like also like when I worked at my first year at USC, the thing that I really wanted, like I tried to do that seemed kind of grief at the time, but like I think was pretty interesting was they were doing a LAN outside, And so on all the computers, I just played like cheering noises, like they thought it was super stupid, but I mean that simulated what it was gonna be like playing in front of live people, and instead of like in the basement, you know what I mean? Likewise, physiological stressors can lead to poor cognitive function as following sleep deprivation. Yep. Hundreds of further examples could be provided, although the implications is that psychological and physiological stressors are not independent. I think people, like, need to remember that, like, psychological stress... Oh, we're going to put this on my thing. Holy God. Where am I going to put this? I guess I'm going to put it here. Like, you cannot separate, like, okay, one of the best examples of what they just said right here, like psychological and physiological stressors cannot be independent, is think about, like, tilt or stress. Let's go stress, and then, like, when we talk about tilt, but when you think about stress, there's like two pathways, right? You have your cognitive pathway, so everything you're thinking, and then you have your somatic pathway. That's the somatic things of your body, the way that stress is expressed. So for example, something of like the cognitive pathway is the thoughts that you're thinking about. So for example, oh my God, this game is so much harder now that this mistake has been made, or the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Man, I'm so dumb. If I only didn't make that mistake, the game would be easier. So all those cognitive things. And then you have the somatic part, the shaking, the heart pumping, the sweating, all those other things that belong in your body. And so this most comes out during breathing exercises, right? Because you hear, oh my God, I'm tilted. I just need to breathe, man. And yeah, that's fine. Breathing does help. If you want to make the breathing more effective, make it a practice. Do it every single day. Don't just do it during games. But the thing with breathing is it's really good at addressing somatic symptoms of stress. So slowing you down, slowing your body down, slowing your heart down. And people think, oh, if I do breathing, it should calm my mind down. And yeah, it could, because I mean, your mind and body is connected. So if your body's going slower, then your mind should go slower too, right? So I mean, it does. At the same time, if you're using it thinking that it's gonna like slow down your brain, it's not the most effective technique for that. And so people get upset and say, oh, breathing doesn't work, or breathing is working. It's just not working in the same way that you're thinking. So that's a great way to and a great example of showing you that how these two things are interconnected, but not necessarily one and the same, you know? Deprivation or stress is one factor that can significantly influence the corresponding dimension. Thus, the psychological endurance model, the intention matters a lot, right? Doing something compulsory may not have the right effect as opposed to focusing on what you are addressing by using it. Absolutely, my friend. Like, facts, snaps, absolutely. Like, again, when you're doing the breathing thing, or when you're focusing on the breathing thing, like breathing out of reaction versus breathing with the intent to just slightly calm your heart rate. Absolutely. Like, I mean, I think the statement of having an intention and a purpose of what the thing you're doing and what you're doing it for, absolutely. Like, that makes it so OP. You know, like, you understand what you're doing. You're probably creating a practice around it. It's more intentional versus... So yes, if you actually have the intention and the practice behind it, it makes the thing so much more effective. Absolutely. Absolutely. But then again, if you even want to link that to life, right? And if you have an intention of what you're playing for, what you're trying to get out of the game versus just winning, you know, if you're working on a specific mechanic, or if you're working on a specific mindset, what have you, it's going to make your game so much more effective in helping you climb consistently versus I'm just going to play for the wins or whatever. So absolutely have an intention. That is critical. Thus, the psychological endurance model incorporates a role for both psychological and physiological stressors when examining the link between motivation and goal-directed behaviors. Fun fact, this takes energy. Like, you having motivation takes energy. You doing the goal-directed behaviors takes energy, too. So this is not, like, infinite. You can do this. You're going to get tired, you're going to get tilted, and you're going to have to recharge. For psychological stress, the group dynamic potentiates, ooh, what a word, further psychological stressors outside the individual mindset, whereas, oh, let me read it. The psychological stress, the group dynamic potentiates further psychological stress outside the, yep. Yes, group management and being on a team takes energy, bro. Whereas for physiological stress, the environment dictates the nature of the, ooh, I like that. That's interesting. I like that. That there is your... So basically what they're saying is, yes, there are individual factors that take up cognitive endurance. Whoa, Ultralist! Thanks, baby! I hope your 23 friends are ready to nerd out on some... on some esports psychology stuff. Thanks, buddy. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you get some sleep and you're not playing at 5 o'clock in the morning again. Jesus Christies. But basically what they're saying is outside things that take up psychological endurance or energy is your teammates and being on a team and managing those things. Whoa! Thanks for the follow, baby. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for the follow. And also, physiological stress is dictated by outsideness. The cheering, the lights, the audience, all those kinds of things. The stream chatters, all those kinds of things. For example, collegiate athletes will inevitably have different potential and actual stressors than sailors undergoing a naval deployment as determined by their respective environments. Yeah, different types of stressors. At the same time, it would be foolish to say that, like, just because someone has different stressors doesn't mean that that stress is bigger or smaller than the other. Okay, I mean, maybe if you're on a naval ship and people are shooting at you and, like, it's a life and death situation versus, like, I need to take a test tomorrow or I'm not going to be pre-med anymore. But at the same time, if you think about it from that perspective, maybe your perceived life will be over if you don't pass this test, you know? So, life and death, maybe it comes to perception. So, I'm not going to say that any stress is bigger than another one. Because your perceptive reality is your perceptive reality, you know what I mean? There could be an overlap in the mental and physical performance implications, yet the environments cannot be fully equated. Yep, it's because it's about perception, baby. Boundary setting conditions potentiate the types of stressors occurring in an environment without necessarily contributing stress. Okay, fair. Psychological factors that drain the battery. So this was physiological. Oh, that was all of the above. Okay, psychological. Psychological endurance is challenged by many psychological draining factors encountered during high-intensity situations. However, the social environment could act either as a protector or stressor. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, it could go either way, man. It could go either way. And the reason for that, I think they're going to say, is, like, if you're friends, right, and you guys are buddy-buddy, and you guys want to see each other's... be successful, do well, you're gonna be hyping each other up, you're gonna be acting as that support system versus, oh my god, I hate my teammate, this sucks, I can't wait to go home. And then the win is gonna, you know, this is gonna happen if the win feels more like, oh, thank god, we won, versus, woo, we're winning, you know what I mean? So it could go either way. This interpretation depends on the social nature of human beings and the potential for intergroup and intra-group factors to have an influence upon the type of stressors. Thus, psychological factors outside the individual must be properly accounted when evaluating psychological endurance. Yep. You know, another really interesting thing would be, like, how does this affect people that don't play a team sport, like Heroes of the Storm, shout out to my good friend Ultralisk, or, like, League of Legends versus, like, Street Fighter or Smash. It's like an individual sport, right? Each psychological stressor makes it more difficult and challenging to sustain the desire to move forward. Yeah, because, I mean, you're splitting your attention. you're splitting your energy, and that takes energy, so it is draining. It's kind of like multitasking or task switching, you know, something like that. Or like, even if you want to think of Naruto, your shadow clones, they all take energy. The particular stressor may not be unique to a population, although there might be a more prototypical stressor given the context. Among athletes, fear of failure might be a common psychological stressor. Fear of failure. Psychological trainers. Absolutely. You know, another one that they may not I would extend this further, not just to like fear of failure. I'd extend this to fear too, because I mean, how's this one? I mean, I guess this is a question for chat. Are you more afraid of failure, crashing and burning, or are you more afraid of success? Okay, you're gonna be like, oh my god, what does that mean? Fear of success. What I mean by that is like, okay, if you succeed today, guess what you have to do tomorrow? You have to succeed again and again and again and again. Think of like championship teams, right? You win a championship, and what do people now do? They expect you to win every single time, and that's a lot of pressure. That's why oftentimes like the most OP mindset has been like the underdog mindset. And what I mean by that is like, oh, no one really believes in us. We're gonna be like, no one believes that we can win, so there's no pressure on us, so we can just go out there and win, man. It's such an OP mindset. Versus the champion mindset of like, okay, this is our house, we have to defend it, we have to win again. Like, there's a lot of pressure, because guess what? Everyone is expecting you to win, and if you don't live up to those expectations, then it could be cataclysmic. And then you go through the same spiral. So, are you more afraid of failure or success? Do they have a control or variable to help with the varying stressors and their effects? Might be worded poorly. What I mean is like fear of failure may typically cause more issues with endurance than say over socialization based on preference. I think they're just mentioning, that's a really good question, first of all. I think what they're mentioning is they're just naming factors that are typical factors that drain your cognitive battery, or your battery for endurance. Well, my dog is snoozing. He's having a good ass dream. His tail is wagging. So I think another thing that is really important to say is that just because they're naming these stressors, I don't think they're saying like this is the most stressful to least stressful thing. They're just saying these are components that that tax your cognitive battery. Because I think the thing that's going to be really important to mention is that each person's cognitive battery drains for different reasons at different rates. And that's all due to your perspective of what is cognitively taxing for you. Because, for example, maybe you are used to the lights, the flashing, the crowd, but maybe the thing that taxes your cognitive battery is the thinking of failure, for example, or oh no's, maybe. Whereas somebody may be not focused on that at all, be really in the present moment, but because they're too much in the present moment, there's too much, like, they are too focused on the crowd and the lights and all these kinds of things. So that's going to drain their cognitive battery. So I don't think this is this is the most draining, the least draining, because the thing with stress too and pressure is it's about perspective, and your perspective is key. Or also for good versus bad pressure. Personally, I'm more afraid of success and responsibilities that are associated. Honestly, me too. I think the reason I'm more afraid of success is because I think I've experienced so much more failure. You know what I mean? Like, I've fallen on my face so many times that, like, it's so much easier to get up versus like, oh my god, what? I have to do it again? I have to make another smash hit? Oh my god, you know? Or are they still like what I do? Blah 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 blah. That's a good point. Would be super hard to facilitate measurements person to person on all stressors. Absolutely. Although some way that you can measure the stress is by using Likert scales. The best way are those self-reports, like for example on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not stressed at all and 10 being very stressed. How stressful was this for you? And then you can kind of titrate using those scales. All right, among a military population, most conspicuous examples might be post-traumatic stress disorder given the occupational hazards associated with military service. All right, another really interesting thing with PTSD and experiencing PTSD is you and I could experience the same thing. For example, since military, right? Like you and I could both be in the same Humvee that gets exploded by an IED on the side of the road. But I could be super messed up by this and be like, oh my god, every time I get into a car, I blow up. Versus you could be like, oh my god, that was just unlucky. Like, the Lord protected me. It was a weird experience, but I'm good. So, again, stress comes down to perspective. And even post-traumatic stress disorder, it comes down to perspective and how you interpret that experience. Likert Scales, I'm prepping for my master's, and for the life of me, couldn't remember that earlier, coming up with these ideas. I got you, baby. I'm heading to bed, East Coast time, Gap OP. But will this be uploaded long form on your YouTube? I think so. I think it should be there. Something that I'm trying to do is make sure that it doesn't record my what's your face. It doesn't record the music, and so it doesn't get flagged. But it should be there. If not, I'll try to post it. But good night, man. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for the follow. Hope I see you around. I'll be trying to stream maybe around this time every single day, or most days. 7. I was streaming too early, and then I wasn't getting anybody, so I'm gonna come around 7 o'clock or 10 o'clock Eastern. So my bad, bro. But thanks for coming. The military scenario also provides examples to explore the differences between prototypical psychological stressors and actual source of distress and trauma. Although a significant... Alright, later, Ann. Have a good stream. Thanks, buddy. Take it easy. Although a significant factor associated with combat deployment, psychological distress could also apply to peacekeeping operations or the deployment or the development of psychopathology. Absolutely. Furthermore, there are many more sources of stress incumbent to military operations. Boredom, redundancy, pressure to perform, and a myriad of other factors could be psychologically draining to the individual without incurring combat stress. You know what? I read another really interesting article that said, it was talking about trolls and trolling behavior, and basically a reason why one reason people become trolls is because they find the game too boring and they need to make it more exciting. So for example, in your games too, have you been like bored in a game because you're either like so far ahead or they're so far behind that like it's like, what's the point of this game? And then you start trolling, and then say you're ahead and then you're not so ahead, and then the game gets really dicey and you're like, okay, I need to pay attention and focus more because you're bored. I mean, the two largest causes of trolls is like boredom and frustration and fatigue. I wish there was another F word for boredom, so like it had a nice little alliteration, but there isn't. Any factor could therefore contribute to unplanned losses, whether through mishaps or other injury, legal problems, the fuck, family problems, administrative separations, and other forms. When psychological stress builds, the propensity for unfavorable outcome grows, with the increased potential that an individual will lose the desire or ability to sustain goal-directed behavior for one reason or another. Absolutely. For psychological endurance, moral injury... What? Moral injury warrants special attention as a stressor? What's moral injury? What the fuck? I am all eyes. Moral injury. Moral injury describes a cognitive or emotional response following events and actions which violates a personal moral or ethics code. Long term... I gotta copy this. This is a freaking interesting term, bro. What? Long-term goals often will require such effort that individuals could go to exceptional lengths to achieve their aspirations. In turn, any high-stakes environment is likely to incur challenges to individual moral or ethics code. The moral injury can contribute to multiple psychological issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and suicidal thoughts. The fuck? Oh my god, what is this? What's an example of this? These injuries can occur in many different ways, and individuals can be especially prone to such injury when authorized to use lethal force. Oh, I see. Fair. I don't want to kill this person, but I don't want to die. And then that weighs on you. I guess also, I'm trying to think of like a gaming example of this in your team. Maybe everyone tells like really raunchy jokes, or like people are bullying Tommy and you're like, I don't want to bully Tommy, but if you don't bully Tommy, then everyone else is going to bully you. Maybe, I don't know. And individuals can may be especially prone to injury when military engagements tend to have more archetypal moral injuries than other contexts. Direct combat engagement, failing to prevent a tragedy, betrayal from trusted persons, or poor performance causing others to be injured can all lead an individual to suffer a moral injury. That's interesting. Moral injuries. Given the dangerous, challenging circumstances associated with military service, these psychological injuries, injurious events present a significant strain on psychological endurance. However, such events are not unique to military service. Athletes pressured to take performance-enhancing drugs may be subjected to this psychological stressor, as well as feeling of having failed the team. Yeah, okay. Fair. I see that. Take this drug or else. I guess that's like a Lance Armstrong situation. But again, I wonder too if that is kind of also motivated by what's the word I'm looking for? I wonder if that's also motivated by like the stressor of fear failure too, right? Like, I need to take these drugs or else I'm gonna fail. Or this, honestly, I think this is actually a really huge one too. The feeling of having failed the team, like, oh my god, if I only engaged better, if I only like took this fight better, if I only positioned better, we would have won. I think that's a really common one. Especially for support players. So if you know a support player, make sure you give him a hug. Oh, shout out to Joe Jacko, just like right there. Give your support players some love, baby. Medical staff may experience more injury when losing patients, or should they feel betrayed by the healthcare system. More injury when suffered. I see you, baby. I see you learning. And then I guess for also you support players, it's not your fault. Okay? It's not your fault. You can't win the game always, baby. You have to have your team around you. So be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Self-hugs go a long way. Moral injury when suffered thus represents a core depleting factor of psychological endurance with implications that could have life-altering impact and permanently affect individual capacity. Yeah, I think so. That, if this becomes a core thing of yours that you're concerned with, or like, oh my god, I always do bad, or it's always my fault that we lose, and then that's something that always like weighs on you, that could be very draining. So I think it's going to be important to stop personalizing some of these things and be able to let go and accept that shit happens, man. Actually, if you think about it from that perspective, like psychological, like what drains your psychological battery or cognitive endurance battery could also be the guilt and shame that you experience when these things happen, and you like put that into your backpack, and that takes weight. I think that takes energy to carry. So, if you're actually able to unpack your backpack, become lighter, it's a less of a burden, and it's not going to burn you out so fast. Alright, measurements become a major challenge in assessing psychological stress. There are so many different stressors that using one catch-all survey will likely not address the core issues. Even so, there are a myriad of tools that could situationally capture problems as they begin to mount the perceived stress scale. All right, let's look at this, baby. Boom. Is this it? 10 items? But I want it for free. You know, I mean, the thing about these, like, stress scales, honestly, I mean, I don't want to shit on them, but you know if you're stressed, right? Like, you know if you're stressed. That's why, like, some of these scales are great. At the same time, like, is this 10 items? Okay, how do you score it? Oh, here you go. Alright, if you want to figure out if you're stressed out, here you go. With norms and everything, baby. Let's save this for later. Perceived stress scale. It's only 10 items. It's very easy to take. But at the same time, like, how stressed out are you? You know what would be really funny if you take this perceived stress scale, and you actually are more stressed out because it confirms how stressed you are. All right, is a 10 item survey that captures current levels of individual stress. This tool may be particularly valuable given its brevity. Many clinical tools exist to evaluate related issues to psychological disorders, such as PTS, the post-traumatic stress disorder checklist, yikes, or the Beck depression inventory. Yes, these are good checklists. They're very standardized. You take this. I wouldn't say you take the PTSD one, but you do. The Beck depression inventory, I think, is like a nice screener. You wouldn't ever take this or score it as a regular person, but as a clinical psychologist, I've given that a lot. That, and you give the Beck's depression and the Beck's anxiety. Like, those are like two very common ones. But unlucky, that costs money. Other measures have similar implications specific to particular psychological stressors, such as the military version of the moral injury questionnaire. Dude, that must be a trip to score. Despite the many tools that could be employed as a measure of psychological stress, the critical underlying factor is that any self-report tool may not fully capture the stress currently experienced. Yep. Because it's a perceived stress thing. Individual perceptions, boom, and expectations can cloud self-report measures and change interpretations. Therefore, any measure of psychological stress should appropriately adapt for the specific scenario and challenges if it is to adequately depict any ongoing danger to psychological endurance. You know, another thing that kind of screws the perception of it too is oh, I don't want to fill this out and then be all stressed out, or people think I'm stressed. That's bad. All right. So, physiological factors that drain stress. So your physical things. And here's my hypothesis before I continue reading, is that they're going to say that, like, running and endurance is good. But if not, know that running and endurance, anaerobic exercises are great to extend your cognitive endurance. Endurance equals endurance. Although the psychological endurance model primarily focuses on psychological factors, the physiological burden cannot be ignored during the pursuit of long-term goals. Students may spend extremely long hours studying in pursuit of a degree. Elite athletes spend hours per day enhancing physical strength. Military service members face extreme challenges during deployment, ranging from austere environments. That's a great word. Austere is your word of the day. One more time. Austere. Severe or strict in manner. So, Joe Jacko, I guess you could be an austere coach if you'd like. Austere. From austere environment, so drill sergeants and shit, to chronic sleep disruption. Bombs going boom. Each problem exerts a physiological toll on the individual that makes psychological endurance even more difficult to sustain. As such, the model acknowledges physiological burdens as a significant factor related to endurance in alignment with research indicating a relationship between physiological and psychological factors in human performance. Interesting. So it seems that like this physiological burden is the environment also. Okay, let me write that down. Physiological drainers. Where is it? Where is it though? Very austere. Very rigid in my lane. Very strict. Not cutesy at all. Very manly. Where is it? Environments, yeah. Austere. See, not only do we give you the psychology, but we also give you new words, baby. Boundary conditions are first and foremost determined by the environment. So, I mean, how... An example of this also could be your desk, bro. Like, look at your desk right now. I'm looking at it, right? My desk, it's kind of cluttered. The more cluttered your desk is, the more stressful it is. So, if you can clean your room, your desk, your environment to be more tidy, the less stressful your environment is. If you can decrease stress, thus increasing your cognitive endurance. Although environments might conjure images related to performance under, oh there it is, austere conditions. In this sense, environment refers to any condition required to achieve a long-term goal. Interesting. They extend this. Time requirements can directly affect sleep schedules, such as upcoming tests or a need for an Olympic skater to be at the rink before classes begin. Environment, it's interesting that they lumped in time. I guess time can be your environment. Interesting. The actual okay, so okay, so environmental factors, and they lump time in here. Time requirements. The actual geographic terrain, bro. So another example of this, I'm guessing, would be the separation of, for example, the training and the where you train. For example, if you have like the training space or the arena, and then separating that from your room. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not holding you. Arctic conditions present challenges due to the climate, whereas extending time abroad a ship during naval deployments presents continuous challenges in maintaining adequate sleep due to motion, light, and irregular schedules. Okay, sleep. Environment thus potentiates the physiological challenges an individual might encounter during the pursuit of long-term goals. Still, the important contribution to the psychological endurance model is to acknowledge that physiological challenges can drain individual willpower as much as psychological ones. Yep, I think that's really important to mention. Because people don't... Again, I think from that perspective, what this is saying is that since they defined environment as conditions required to achieve long-term goals. So because this is really broad, environment can be your physical environment, your time environment, your sleep environment. All of these things are really important to increase your cognitive endurance. So I mean, if you really want to think about it from that perspective, again, the Maslow hierarchy of needs becomes much more important. So for example, a lot of pros or people in gaming that's reached a very high level has gotten there doing really bad things. For example, what I mean by that is like maybe they sacrifice their sleep, maybe their room's a mess, maybe their diet is shit, but they still were able to reach this level. That means, though, or that begs the question, did they get there despite what they did or because of what they did? So, for example, what I mean by that is, like, despite not sleeping, I was still able to reach this thing. Despite eating like shit, I was still able to reach this thing. Not because of it. And then that makes you think, right? Wow, if you were actually able to regulate your space, your thoughts, your sleep, your food, your exercise, how much better would you have been? Or could you be? Because if from that perspective too, if you continue down this road, you're only going to get this level of performance output. But if you want to get a different, more better output, you might have to do different things. An exhaustive list of physiological stressors would be impractical, as the discussion would expand a book length. True. Yet there are some exceptionally pervasive factors which warrant description. Sleep problems. Bro, honestly, if you were to fix your sleep schedule, your performance would increase tenfold. Like, bar none. Bar none. You would get so much better. But then again, who wants to fix their sleep, baby? That's so unfun. I'd rather, you know, and if I'm gonna fix my sleep, I'd rather stay up for 24 hours, feel like shit, and then not fix it. That's totally a joke. Do not do that. Do not try to fix your sleep by staying up for 24 hours. It's ineffective, it feels bad, and it's not good. Also, fun fact with sleep, your melatonin. Melatonin is not a sleep aid to help you fall asleep. Melatonin is better at helping you reset your circadian rhythm. So, for example, if you're like, oh man, I messed up my sleep schedule, I'm gonna go to sleep and use melatonin, and you sleep at 9 o'clock, basically what you're trying to tell your body is, I'm trying to fall asleep at 9 o'clock. Then, say, the next day, you're like, oh my god, I'm taking melatonin again, and it's at 12 o'clock. You kind of messed up the whole melatonin thing. But, hey, a big part of melatonin is placebo. Take that thing, go to sleep, baby. I won't take that away from you. Sleep loss could be experienced due to many factors, including due to intense training, military deployment. The impact on performance is similarly insidious as cognitive functions become disrupted by the sleep loss. Fair. However, some environmental challenges are so predictable yet unavoidable that they could be ideal candidates for altering the environment to reduce physiological burdens. The best example here would be birthing. Is that correct? Did I read that right? Beerthing? I want to say birthing. I hope it's not birthing. What do you think about the presidential debate, by the way? Bro, it's a hot mess. America's fucked. Birthing is the word! I was correct. Yeah, the debate's really interesting. I mean, I think this is just my perspective, right? I think the craziness of Trump, like, I think 4 years ago or whatever, it was like, oh my god, I can't believe he would say these kinds of things. But now he's just kind of going on his greatest hits and saying just nonsense. I still think he's got a really good shot to win, unlucky. But I mean, like, it's not as, like, it's got that same pizzazz as it used to, you know? The other unlucky thing, though, is because even though he's, like, saying weird and crazy things, you gotta give it to the man. Like, he has a certain way of, like, ooh, I still kind of want to listen. I still want to watch. It's like watching a train wreck, you know? Like, you don't want to, or like a car accident, you don't want to see the cars hit and somebody die, but you can't stop watching the cars get close to each other and watching them go boom, you know? They're eating our oh my god, bro. And then the best part was, like, they're having live fact checking. Like, the guy's like, I called the spokesperson for Springfield, and they said there's no reports of anyone eating dogs. And let's be real. There was another comment that I probably... That's an inside thought, Ryan, to keep. And make those jokes in person, but that's an inside thought. Yeah, they're eating our dogs. They're eating your pets. Hide your kids. Hide your dogs. They're eating everybody out here. Honestly, the best quote from that was, so what's your plan? I have a plan. I have feelings of a plan. So what's that plan? I'm not president yet, so I can't tell you. Like, oh my God, that's the best. That's the best quote, bro. Like, I have an idea. It's a premise of an idea. What's the idea? It's not fully formed yet, but I do have ideas about the idea. But I'm not going to tell you yet because I'm not elected. Like, you got to give it to the man. He's got some funny ass quotes because it's just so ridiculous. And the best part is, like, another thing that I thought was really funny the guy baited in was, like, when Kamala's like, yeah, go to his rallies and people are leaving. He's like, I have the biggest rallies. No one's bored. No one's leaving. They're the greatest. Like, oh my God, bro, size matters. Compensating much? I don't know. Yep. That's so great. He's got some great quotes. Like, really funny quotes. But then, here's the other thing. Going on the side tangent. What's really scary about, like, American and, like, politics is that you can fight ideas and policies. But once somebody becomes the policy or, like, somebody, like, becomes the idea, it becomes so personal that you can't separate and debate an idea anymore because now it feels like you're attacking that person's self. And, like, their stance becomes such a personal thing that they cannot separate it. It's almost like religion. You know, if you're super religious and someone starts talking about the ideas of the religion, it feels like they're attacking you. And so you can't talk about the religion or the idea behind the religion because it's too personal. And so I think that's the scary thing about politics now is that, like, you're not battling ideas. We're battling people. And then because you're battling people, it becomes you versus me versus us versus this idea. I think that's the danger of it. When people over-identify with something like that. Yes, politics are so emotionalized. Absolutely. Like, but then, see, like, for example, like, I was having this debate with my father, which is really funny. It's like, okay, so, like, all right, let's just handshake on abortion, for example, right? Let's just handshake on abortion that killing is killing. All right, fine, no abortion. Are you willing then to support the baby and the parents of the baby because it got born? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, if you're going to have the kid, fine, no killing. Then you also have to beef up social services, welfare, foster care, all these other things that they're going to definitely need because maybe they didn't want this kid, maybe they can't afford this kid, but killing is bad. So then are you willing to pay for all these other things that are coming out of taxes? And he's like, why would I do that? I was like, because you have to. Like, you can't not. And he's like, well, they shouldn't be having kids if they're not being responsible. I'm like, Dad, studies have shown that less educated people have kids sooner and have more kids. So you're gonna have to take care of the kids. Ryan, don't you think they're gonna be more responsible? No, I don't. And in fact, studies back up my position of they're gonna have more babies and they're gonna just have more children because they're just not as educated. Like, that's what happens. So even the afterwards. And then, do you want to hear a terrible joke? I thought was really funny, but it might be terrible. I don't know if this is, like, too muchy, but here we go. So the joke, I was listening to this comedian on TikTok, and he goes, in my experience, people who are against gun control, and this is like a total US problem, it doesn't happen in Germany, anywhere. Whenever I go overseas, they're like, why are you shooting kids in school? So I'm like, oh my God, we just can't stop it. It's like inevitable. I mean, that just happens. It's so fucking stupid. But the comedian goes, okay, typically in my experience, people who are for gun control, so they want to limit guns, they are also pro-abortion or pro-choice. At the same time, people who don't want to limit guns are also against abortion. So keep your guns, but no killing, or no abortion. And he goes, but the funny thing is, like, but he goes, but then you have to ask yourself, do you want the kids poached or scrambled? And I was like, oh my god, that's so true. Do you want them poached or scrambled? I was just dying. Like, oh my god. Yeah, I mean, there's no way to prevent school shootings. Oh no, I didn't hear the news about German local election. Fill me in, brother. What's going on in Deutschland? Can't be any worse than the US of A. Cannot be. Cannot be. And the other joke is, bro, you know, with so many like school shootings, you think we'd be better at gun games, but we just can't win a major. Bad jokes. Bad jokes. It's actually really tragic, school shootings. My coping mechanism is humor. I know that's not great, but it's really bad. I mean, populists are gaining power. Oh, really? Ruh-roh. Another really interesting thing was, like, you know, in the US we're having, like, a couple years ago or last year or whatever, we're having, like, defund the police. And it came out in California that they had, like, to return a bunch of things, or because, I don't know, they had to return some stuff. And the resource officers, so the officers in the school, submitted that they returned grenade launchers. Like, what do you mean, grenade launchers? I hope there was tear gas in that thing. Like, why are these officers in schools having grenade launchers? I mean, cool. But, what? Happens all over Europe and US. But you know what we don't have? A very big incidence of? We have more gun violence, but you know what's terrifying? Personally, what's even more scary than gun violence is, like, in the UK they got, like, stabbings and shit. Like, that is more terrifying to me. Like, someone's gonna stab you. That's so scary. It's sad, and social media made things worse. Absolutely. A great documentary, or there's two great documentaries that talk about this. One is The Greatest Lie, I think, and there was another one. They're on Netflix, but there's two documentaries about that. The Greatest Lie. The Greatest Hack. Basically, The Greatest Hack was a documentary about when Trump first got elected, and it basically talks about how Facebook got used as a testing ground for Cambridge Analytica to collect data and then swing voters one way or the other. It was super interesting, and what's really sad is that, like, we're not that, like, even though it, like, social media makes it seem that we're, like, very polarized, if you actually were to sit down with somebody, we're not that much different. But because you basically get shoved all this stuff in your face, and your algorithm shoves things in your face, and, like, you think a certain way, and here's the thing that really blew my mind, that I never really thought about before until this, was, like, yeah, I heard about that one. The thing that was really crazy is, like, you think that your algorithm, everybody has that information. Like, what you see, you assume that everybody else sees the same thing, has the same access to information that you have. But they don't, because your algorithm is made for you. And so other people have the exact opposite algorithm, and those people think that you have that information. And because we assume that we both have the same information, or making judgments and opinions and thoughts based on our algorithms that we share, which we don't, that makes it even worse. That, and if you think about the purpose of social media, the purpose of social media isn't to, like, get your fill and then you say, okay, I had enough social media for the day and I'm done. The purpose of social media is to make you stay here longer, to engage with things longer. Like, it's designed to capture your attention. And the best way to capture your attention isn't by haha funny memes, it's by rage baiting you. And so they figured out that if I can make you angry, you're gonna stay here longer to consume more. Which is so fucking toxic, right? And the other thing that really blew my mind, if you think about it, is that, like, if something is, well, first of all, nothing is free, right? Nothing is free. But if it says it's free, it's taking something from you, your data, and something, but most of all, it's your attention, right? So, even Gmail, like, you know, like your mail, they figured out that if they said at the end, after you clear your entire inbox and there's nothing read, it goes, yeah, you read all your mail. They found that makes people stay in mail longer because they want to see that thing. In Messenger, if you have an iPhone, that, like, before they would see people increase time if they have those two little dots. Boop, boop, boop. Oh my god, they're typing back. What are they going to say? I'm going to stay in the app. Wild. These small, like, to assume that there's, like, psychologists thinking about these things on the other side, playing for the other team, is mind-blowing, right? But yeah, politics are crazy, man. It's wild. Alright, dude, where was I? Please, keep me on this, like, tangent. That was so fun. My god. It's so crazy. The world is so good nuts. And then California's on fire. There's 3 different fires right now. Yeah, the 3 fires are crazy. California's trying to burn itself down. Alright. Physical fitness. Here we go. Physical fitness must also be addressed, as it is among the most salient and commonly measured aspects of sustained performance scenarios. Bruh. I'm telling you. Going and touching grass, going on long walks, doing these endurance exercises is so OP. Like, if you actually want to, like, this is not the first article I've read that says, like, if you really want to increase your cognitive battery, just build your endurance, bro. Exercise has been linked to more positive mental health, absolutely, although the impact is not universally positive. See, another thing that was really interesting was I was talking to a player, and they said, oh, I'm going to the gym. I'm like, yeah, way to go, bro. Like, way to go to the gym. He's like, but I just go to the gym because I know that it's good for me, nothing else. I was like, dang. How can we make this more effective for you or more interesting for you so you can go and see the actual impacts of this? He goes, I just feel sore after, and so, meh. I'm like, okay, we need to make sure that you understand why you're doing this and how it's helping you. For psychological endurance, the physiological stressors extend beyond maintaining a good physical fitness. A greater disconnect between exertion required for a goal and physical capabilities can extract a greater toll upon the individual in sustained performance. Greater physical toll thus becomes greater psychological toll and thereby imposes a greater drain upon the psychological battery. Physical fitness can help sustain psychological endurance, but the contribution to the model comes from how easily the individual can handle the physiological requirements of the responsibility for pursuit of long-term goal. Go touch grass for a while. Go build your physicalness. Honestly, too, I don't think gamers realize that sitting down in a chair and maintaining your posture actually drains your body. Or using your fingers and your hands actually takes energy. And even though you can do it for longer periods of time because they're fine motor, excuse me, they're fine motor functions, you still have a physical limit. Alright, measuring physiological stress is a quantifiable challenge at one with a multi-billion-dollar industry and support. Real-time physiological monitoring has numerous applications in both intense training environments and continuous monitoring. Unfortunately, the major challenge comes in validating measures. Many wearable devices have entered the commercial market in recent years, and even more poised to emerge in the near future. See, the thing about wearable devices, though, is like sometimes esports athletes or gamers don't want to wear them because of how it gets in the way. Who almost finished. All right, we'll get down to here, and then we shall finito, and then we can move on to a different one tomorrow. I think I'll read this in my spare time. But it's really interesting. I think this is a very interesting concept of a battery. But yeah, I think wearable devices are great. I think a really good one, if you have like a watch, Apple Watch or whatever, is if you can get a sleep tracker monitor. I think that's going to give you a lot of good data. Dude, because I mean, the Oura Ring is so expensive, bro. I think that's a really cool piece of tech. But I think if you're able to get like an Apple Watch with the sleep tracker app, I use Auto Sleep, but there's other apps out there that actually track and monitor how well you're sleeping. I think it's really interesting. And then you can actually gamify it for yourself. Like, I want better sleep. Can I get better numbers? And it's a fun little game, you know. Time requirements can directly affect sleep schedules, such as upcoming tests or need for Olympic skater to. Okay, I read that one where we were. Oh, here. Okay, monitoring. Okay. Different wearable devices have different predictive validity, namely how well does the device actually measure what it's supposed to measure. I mean, yeah, at the same time, don't go too much into it, just believe. For example, multiple commercial sleep devices have been compared with both actigraphy and polysomnography, thereby providing some comparison to the laboratory gold standard. Individual devices provide promising performance for sleep tracking without being able to fully characterize all aspects of sleep, such as inconsistent measures of sleep stages. This challenge highlights the problem wherein marketing claims for individual manufacturers may outstrip the empirical demonstrations. More importantly, there is often a disconnect between the physiological measure and the implications for human performance. I mean, yeah, you're kind of guessing. I mean, you're ready, but will you, just because you're physically ready, does that mean you're going to perform well? I don't know, shrug. Because, I mean, just because you're physically ready doesn't mean that you're mentally ready to do the thing. Because again, unlucky it is connected. Individual devices are still being explored for validity, and so the interpretation of data from one device may or may not match existing research from a different device. Yeah. In short, there are many levels of assumption to overcome about the relationship between physiological monitoring and outcome performance. Psychological endurance has the same issue with assumptions as the general performance literature. With the general assumptions, yeah. Although physiological stress monitoring could provide some insight into how physiological stress contributes to draining the psychological battery. Yeah, I do think, I mean, I think, yes, basically they're saying, like, it's really hard to generalize that data and or to compare or correlate the physiological factors of sleep and how you feel good, or the quality of your sleep and the actual performance. That being said, you probably have a better idea of how you're gonna be, or set better expectations for your training depending on how much sleep and how ready you are. And at a certain point, you just gotta believe. Another measurement challenge involves processing the actual data. Physiological metrics can be exceptionally insightful, but they can also be highly evasive to collect. Absolutely. Oh, dude, the same player that I was talking about, they have this thing that they sleep on. Apparently, like, they sleep on this mat thing, or this data collecting thing, and it goes underneath their sheets. And it tells them, like, how much time they've been in bed, how good and deep their sleep is. It's crazy. Some measures, such as blood draws, yikes, can be particularly informative as they reveal insight into key biomarkers, such as inflammatory cytokines and Bro, say this for me. Say it. Holy moly. That thing. Oh, you can't hear it. Dang. That's what we're talking about here. However, analyzing blood samples can be expensive, and the blood draw itself could actually induce psychological stress. Fair. Saliva samples are cheaper and easier to collect. Alternative methods, similar biomarkers can be collected through an oral swab, including cortical samples and saliva alpha amylase, which can act as an additional psychological marker of stress. Just think though, like if you actually optimize that and just like swabbed everybody's mouth before they played or trained and see how that changed over time. Interesting. Honestly, this is the best way, I think. And okay, heart rate can also be measured to evaluate current stress, although heart rate variability might be more informative for stress. Okay, do you want a fun way to make sure that you're back at baseline just using your heart rate? Okay, so all you need to do, if you want to do this little stress test for yourself, okay, find your pulse on like your neck, or find your pulse on like your wrist, okay? Find your and when you're like before you play, when you're in a calm, collected state, okay, feel your pulse, get your watch, and do a 30-second timer, and then press go, and then start counting how many heartbeats you have for 30 seconds. Okay, after 30 seconds goes up, bing, multiply that number by 2. That's going to give beats per minute, your resting heart rate. Okay? Now, play your game. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be high intensity or whatever, right? As soon as you finish, take your heart rate again. Do the same thing. 30 seconds. Count. Multiply by 2. That's now your active heart rate after training. Okay? Now, to make sure that you're calm, collected, and ready to play the next game, go take a break for like 5 minutes, and then set your timer for 30 seconds again. Do the heart rate, multiply by 2, and you want to make sure that you're back at resting before you play your other game. Then you know that I'm in a calm, collected state to play versus I'm activated, I'm tilted, I'm stressed before I play again. So, just using your heart rate. You don't need any other high-tech things besides your phone, or any high-tech things besides your watch or whatever. That's it. Plan and analysis must be taken into account for any biomarker assessment of stress to maximize any interpretations associated with the data. What is the topic of this paper? I didn't really pay attention. Brother, we're talking about cognitive endurance? Talking about cognitive endurance and physiological and psychological factors that contribute to the increase of endurance and the factors that tax or decrease your endurance or tax your ability to think over time effectively. What I like about this article, honestly, is that they compared this to like a psychological battery, and they kind of broke it down into 4 factors. Okay, the 4 factors, where is it? There's 2 factors. Okay, here it is. All right, this is the way I want to explain it. Where is it? Where are the 4 factors? It's grit, hardiness. Where are they? Okay. Here. Okay. So these 4 factors are the ones that they identified as the 4 factors that create this cognitive battery. Okay. So the cool thing that they broke down was grit and hardiness. They contributed this to like personality factors. You're born with these things. So the way that they kind of described it is grit and hardiness is your predisposed size of battery. Like how big is your battery? Your naturally God-given battery. Okay? Versus self-control and resilience are like skills or things that you can develop over time that make the use of the battery more efficient. So it comes, and there inherently is the question, right? Does size matter, or does the way you use it matter? If you know what I mean. So, although you may not be able to increase, yo, what's up, Rainbow Meowie? Although you may not be able to increase grit and hardiness because they're personality factors, you're born with these things or not. Could you instead focus on self-control and resilience skills to make your use of your battery or how you use your endurance more effective. So that's why I kind of like the way they broke it down, because like, unlucky, you may not have these personality traits, but even if you're given a big or a small battery, wink wink, nudge nudge, you are still able to dictate how that energy is being used and spent. And now we're just going over, like, we went over, they defined the terms, they talked about how to measure these things, and now they're talking about the different psychological and physical factors that drain your battery. And I think that's where we might end. And then now we're going to move on to the section of how to enhance psychological and then endurance. And then I'm going to guess that they're going to talk about how to enhance physiological endurance. Oh, nope, that's it. Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll end today there. And then tomorrow, we'll talk about how to enhance your psychological endurance using these things, using the battery as not only a metaphor, but a framework to work from. But this was fun. I enjoyed this. Thank you so much for coming. This was a blast. I'm not gonna lie. Thank you, Repiv for the follow. Thanks for coming. I hope you had a good time. Joe Jacko, always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you for coming along and having fun with us too. Rainbow Meowie, welcome. And also, special shout out to my boy Ultralisk. Thank you for coming with the raid, my guy. I hope your fans learned something, had some fun. What happened? Where is it? Where's my stream avatars? Did they die? Window is not in game. What? This is bothering me now. I'll fix that later. But thanks for coming. And also, the Korean K-pop was inspired by Ultralisk's stream. Not gonna lie. And also maybe I got a strike last time because I didn't not record it or put it on the recording one. My bad. But tomorrow, I'm gonna try to be back again, 7 p.m. PST, to finish this article, talk more, hang out. I also, fun fact, I got a key to Kind Words 2. So maybe I'll play that on stream tomorrow or Friday, just for funsies. But I'll be back again to read more, to talk more, hang out, you know, vibes. But I hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys are chill and cool. And I'll see you tomorrow. Mwah. Take it easy. Love ya. Pieces. Bye. Oh, also, if you want more resources, please follow my Twitter. If you want to hang out with me and learn how to get your winter condition and start working towards it today, please fill out the free consultation form on my website, psychsensei.com, and you and I can start working together soon. Yeah. And remember, friends, stronger mental wins. Love you. See ya. Mwah. Bye. Love you, Joe. We did it. Good night, good night. Go have some fun games too, Joe. Bye.